Today, we're talking to Larry Rayford, and he has some information dealing with the situation of being in prison and then coming out and moving into the pulpit. And so, Mr. Rayford, let's start off by having you to give us some information in reference to your background, your education, and some of the things that were important in terms of your life. And then after that, we'll start talking about the topic that brings you to us this morning, and that is from prison to pulpit. Let's do it from that perspective.
How you doing, Dr. Haney? I'm very happy to be here again. Well, about myself, I'm a I'm Michigan-born, Chicago-raised young man who had a lot of struggles in life. Been incarcerated for over half my life. Been in prison for 5 years. You know, and my education. I just got my GED I got my GED 2 years ago. So, you know, I just took care of my family, took care of my mother, my sister, you know, and then I taking care of children. So, and since being out, I've been in Nashville now for 10 years. And I go to Mount Carmel Missionary Baptist Church under the tutelage of Bishop-elect Marcus Campbell. And I was ordained last year as a minister, as associate minister. And it's so many challenges that go with it, especially when you come from, you know, where I come from, which was the streets. And then you go to prison for mistakes and things that we've done. And then you come out with try to change your life. People still look at you as the same person that went in. So it's really hard sometimes when you come out and try to do something different. But I always think about Paul, you know, who was once Saul. And when he was Saul, he did a lot of nonsense. He persecuted, he killed Christians, he killed people, you know, and but Jesus knew it was something in that man. So when he met him, you know, he blinded him. And Paul said, Jesus, if you give me my sight back, I'll follow you. And from that day on, Paul followed him. And it's so funny that people know about the stories and they know about what happened in the Word and they say they believe in the Word, but when it comes to being in the natural and not the spiritual, they take your spiritual realm for granted. And I think it really hurts a lot of us that are coming from prison and stepping into our calling and being called because we were convicted. So with that call comes conviction. With that call comes criticism as well.
But with that call also comes a recognition that you have been what all institutions are supposed to produce, a rehabilitated individual, even though I think that you more than anybody else understand what it means when they talk about rehabilitation there. And when you get back out here, nobody believes that you've been rehabilitated. So let's sort of follow that line in terms of moving in a real sense from prison to pulpit. I think you've already indicated that you've been incarcerated, et cetera. But now, what was the transition that allowed you to move from coming out of a closed society in a real sense to meet your Damascus road in terms, since you've talked about Paul, what was your Damascus road?
Wow. I've been shot 6 times. I've been stabbed 12. I had open heart surgery. My biggest thing with my children, it's crazy because everything that I went through still didn't stop me from doing that dumb stuff I was doing. But I had children and I had to realize that I didn't want my children to be raised by the propaganda. I didn't want my children to be raised by the nonsense or the ignorance of the world or other people, period. I wanted to be a father to my children. And the only way I could do that was I had to be here. And I learned something. Once your mind is free, then you're able to do other things. The Bible says, don't be conformed to the world, but be transformed in the renewing of your mind. So in other words, you change your mind, you change your grind. And that was my whole plight right there. I just wanted to do something different for my children and other children and children's children, because I realized the people I hurt, the people I've done wrong, people I've done things to, and I felt like I owed them. And if I couldn't go back and give lives back or go back and give people that time back, then what I could do is serve as much as I can, serve as much as I can in terms of doing better to help somebody else.
And so that was in a real sense a passion with you, that
Yes,
you
sir.
wanted to go out and in spite of what others might say in terms of, or in spite of the doubts
Yeah.
that people might have had in reference to your sincerity and et cetera, you kept on pushing anyway because there was some kind of passion that drove you. Is that what
Yes,
you're
sir.
telling us?
Very much so. It's the passion. You know, it's thinking about the movie Passion of Christ. You know, it's just the passion, man. I mean, Christ had a passion for people. You know, regardless, his purpose in the passion, his passion in his purpose. It was just he had a passion for people. You know, and the thing is, I have a passion for people. I have a passion for our children, especially our youth. You know, but I have a passion for people, period, all around. I want to see my brothers get along. I want to see my sisters get along. I want to see love happen. I want to see brothers and sisters loving each other. You know, this is something that I want to see, even though I know it's hard, but when I do see it, I smile. When I see an older couple that's been together for 40, 50 years, I'm happy about that, because that makes me feel as though me and my rib will make it that long. You know, that gives us a sense of it can happen, even though you see all these divorces happen, you know. So yeah, it's the passion for people, because I want to see good things happen. I'm tired of seeing the nonsense. I just want to see God's promise. I want to know when I leave here that God has said, well done, thy good and faithful servant. And that's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I'm looking forward to.
And so you came up, you have this idea of going you talk often of from prison to pulpit, the worst situation that you could possibly find in a closed society, and et cetera. Now moving into a situation where you not only are free, but you have, in a real sense, real wings, because you're now under the wings of Jesus Christ. Is that under some kind of spiritual wing? Is that what you're saying?
Now, and I'm so happy you said that, Dr. Haney. One thing when I say that, it's not that we're just getting out of bondage, okay? But at the end of the day, it's still almost like being in prison. Why? Because you're serving people that are there. Sometimes they might persecute you. And sometimes we look at, when we get out of a situation, or we came out the world, that when we get into the word, that we won't be persecuted anymore, or we won't be criticized, or we won't be judged. That's when it really happens. You know, that's when it really happens, is once we step into the pulpit, or once, not even just being stepping in the pulpit, just in the mindset of Christ. Once we become a Christian, we become a new creature, we get criticized, we get persecuted, and now we have to understand those challenges come. That's what I mean by it. Don't have to just be the prison to the pulpit. It can be from the prison to the pew. At the end of the day, you have to realize that as a Christian, you're going to get criticized. And if you're not getting criticized, you're not getting persecuted, then maybe you're not doing something right. So that's what I'm learning in this walk. So when we talk about from the prison to the pulpit, that's just my plight. But there's other people that went from prison to the pew, and they're wondering every day, why am I still going through this mess? Why are people still hating me? Why is people still hating on me? Why people think I'm that backstabber, that liar, that I'm not anymore? Why am I still fighting this fight? It's because at the end of the day, Jesus fought the same fight for us. And we tend to think that since Jesus did it, we don't have to.
Okay, and so Mr. Rayford, can you, in a real sense, think in terms of leaving a message to young people who might be involved in whatever kind of situation and who might be incarcerated coming out? What are some of the words of encouragement? We've got about a minute and a half. What are some of the words of encouragement that you can leave with them? Because it would appear to me that they need encouragement. If you go to the court system, you see what's going on, et cetera. They don't have any kind of encouragement down there. And so what can you say, being a person who has been incarcerated, now liberated, and et cetera? Speak to that for the next minute and a half.
Okay. I would like to say, allow your discouragement to be your encouragement. Things that discourage you, allow that to encourage you to do better. Things that were meant to break you down, allow that to lift you up. You might say, how? Well, you know what I've learned? Why worry when you can worship? Instead of worrying about things, worship God and see that it works for you. I promise you it'll work for you. I know because I've tried it. I'm trying it. I'm trying it even daily, day in, day out. Don't get it twisted. I'm in a position now that I am doing a lot better. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't get any easier, but it gets better. It's much better. I'm not looking over my shoulder anymore. I'm not running anymore. I'm not fighting anymore. You know, God is fighting my battles for me. And that if I can't give you any other words of encouragement, that's it. Just be blessed, be encouraged, be inspired, and be motivated daily.
And you think that those are words that come from the lips of a man who's been there, and now has had an experience, and in spite of everything, this is it's a terrific experience. And let me thank you for bringing that information. Let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning. Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Ms. Greenlee, Mr. Harris, and Mr. Bell, three members of the audience, of the panel, who have had some tragedies in their lives. And Ms. Greenlee thought that they could pull this organization together and call it Save Our Sons, in recognition to the fact that some of them have lost. Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning has to do with youth violence, and the name of the topic is Save Our Sons. And we're fortunate to have with us to talk about this topic Ms. Clemmy Greenlee, who has been with us on many, many occasions, and she has with her two individuals that will give us some additional information in reference to the topic, Save Our Sons. But let's start off with you, Ms. Greenlee, to have you to give us some information. And I think that most of our, most viewers of this show know who you are in a real sense because of the work that you've done. But you also have played a very significant role in terms of identifying individuals that we might be able to talk to on this show. And you have with you three individuals today that we want you to identify, to have them to identify, and then we'll get into some of the topics that we have to talk about. Let's say some statements about yourself, and then tell me about them.
Well, first of all, Dr. Haney, let me just say good morning, and thank you for having me once again. Those that know me, Clemmy Greenlee, Nashville Peacemakers, nonprofit organization, community advocate, organizer, and all the above. I am truly, truly blessed to still be out here on the road running for the fight that I believe in. And I am honored to have these two young men that I have brought with me to my left, to my right. I have Mr. Harris from South Central. I have Mr. Bell from Nashville, Tennessee. And they will both be telling you about, in the community, about why they are here with me.
Very good. And of course, Mr. Bell, let's start with you, and then we'll work down to you, Mr. Harris. Let's start with you by having you to give us some information about your background, education, and experience within that context to sort of tell you a story, and then after which Mr. Harris will do the same thing. And by that time, we should be down to about 2 minutes, and Ms. Greenlee will have an opportunity to sort of wrap that up, and we'll leave out of this first and second segment for today. Let's start off with you, Mr.